All right, y'all. So listen, I want to start this video as always as being respectful to the families. I want to send prayers and condolences to the family, sending healing, love, and light their way. And just always want to come off and start off respectful, man. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be here. So we just want to send prayers and condolences their way. All right. Now, in this video here, ABC News conducts an interview with two gentlemen, right? And in their eyes, they're saying there is no excuse for what happened in this situation. There's no excuse for this tragedy with the Titanic sub. All right, so we're going to get into this video. Listen, before we do, man, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and hit that like button so we can get the video out there, man. And that's it. Let's check this out.
The Titanic had been missing at the bottom of the ocean for decades until 1985. That's when Robert Ballard located the wreckage about 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. Ballard, an oceanographer and Navy officer, developed his own remotely operated underwater vehicle and turned to the Navy to fund his project. After an 8-day search, Ballard became the first person to set eyes on the Titanic. April 14th, 1912 is when it crashed. Another person closely familiar with the Titanic is director James Cameron, along with his Oscar-winning movie, of course. He's actually made 33 dives to the wreckage site itself. James and Robert, thank you both.
Again, so these dives aren't uncommon. I see people acting like online like this is just a brand new thing. People all of a sudden deciding to want to go see the Titanic. No, these things aren't uncommon. Let's start there.
Made 33 dives to the wreckage site itself. James and Robert, thank you both so much for joining us. We understand this is not only a difficult day because for the industry, the exploring industry, but also for both of you personally because you knew some of the explorers on board the submersible.
Wow.
And I know first off, we're all thinking of their families. Bob, let's start with you. What first crossed your mind when you heard the news today? I understand you both have a deeper understanding of this than most. So what was your first thought today?
Well, when it happened, both Jim and I were at sea on that Sunday, and Jim called me and told me about it, and we both instantly knew that it was gone. Once the data we heard that they were experiencing trouble, they were on their descent, and then when the tracking system went out and everything went out, the only way you could explain it was a catastrophic implosion.
So how do they know that? See where I'm going with this? How do they know that? But no one else seemed to know that or to express that. They knew it was gone. But sitting here at the same time, again, it feels like to me, when everybody gives you the same answer, I tend to kind of stray away from that a little bit. I'm not that surface to believe that immediately you knew implosion. Especially on a vessel that's had 200 plus dives already. You would think that's the number one, I don't know, safety concern before letting it go out on each adventure, on each dive. So for them to say, we automatically knew implosion, I just feel like that's the answer that everybody wants to go with, and I'm just not buying it.
We're on their descent, and then when the tracking system went out and everything went out, the only way you could explain it was a catastrophic implosion. And we all have not talked to anybody because we knew today would be the day when it would be confirmed. Right, Jim?
How?
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we wanted to come forward. I got, as you did, Bob, approached by many outlets for comment, and it just seemed like speculation, even though we felt we knew what the outcome was going to be, and it was certainly zero surprise to me today. I was even able to visualize the wreck site in my mind over the last few days, and you know, as described, I think it's exactly what we expected. But, you know, I can't imagine what these poor families have been through over the last 4 days, being given false hope here, banging noises, da-da-da. This.
Really? Really? Now, that's the reason why I waited because I didn't want to disrespect and come on here and with my conspiracy theories and different things while the search was ongoing. I didn't want to do that. So I waited until the Coast Guard came out and declared that, okay, that it's over, right? That's when I started making my videos, if you pay attention. I waited. But for him to say that, doesn't that make our Coast Guard or the search and rescue squads from different areas look bad? And I'm not saying from the standpoint of them still, no matter what, we're going to search until there's no possible hope left. I'm just saying, him saying they gave false hope. Now, if they'd have just did those searches, had no interviews and just searched, a lot of people would probably be less conspiracy theory around it, have less theories around it. But the fact that they were saying you were hearing banging noises, these guys said, come on, that's false hope. Telling the people that it was a chance. These guys are saying that's false hope. So
exactly what we expected. But, you know, I can't imagine what these poor families have been through over the last 4 days, being given false hope here, banging noises, da-da-da, this and that. And, you know, it must have been just, you know, horrible for them. And I feel so bad for them. But I also felt that, as we agreed, Bob, that it would be insensitive to come forward with a dissenting voice to the story that was in motion at the time.
Agreed.
I just wish we could have gotten an ROV to the site much earlier and gotten eyes on, which took 4 days. And you know, this thing just seemed like a prolonged nightmare.
You two are.
The French knew exactly where to go. As soon as they arrived, they put their vehicle in and they dove to the spot of the last contact and dropped down, and there was the wreckage.
As I said,
shots fired. Shots fired. They're basically saying we don't know what we doing out here. Basically saying the French showed up and knew exactly where to go, and we was right here running around like a chicken with our head cut off. Just basically calling us incompetent. Basically saying we weren't prepared.
Contact and dropped down, and there was the wreckage.
See the hand?
As I said, you two are so intimately familiar with this site and what it takes to get there. James, I know you were talking today. You were struck by the similarity of what happened with the Titanic disaster to, you know, unfortunately, what has happened here with warnings going out beforehand. Talk to me a little bit about the irony.
Well, it is. Look, people are fascinated by Titanic. They've been fascinated by that story since it sank. And yes, there's the whole, you know, all the millionaires that died and all that sort of thing. But to me, the big irony is that the Titanic sank because of bad seamanship. The captain was warned, and he took a decision to go full speed into a known ice field that he had Marconigram, you know, telegrams in his pocket, warning about the ice ahead. And on a moonless night where they couldn't see anything, they just steamed full speed ahead. And I kind of feel that that's what happened here. I feel that this was such a preventable tragedy. We've never had a tragedy like this in the entire history of deep submergence, deep diving. You have these, you know, highly certified systems like Alvin at Woods Hole, which Bob is very familiar with. Even the Russian submersibles that I dove with, every 5 years they had to be reclassified and recertified and so on. And you have all these legitimate deep diving operations around the world, and even most of the tourist operations around the world use certification from, let's say, ABS, the American Bureau of Shipping.
So what is he implying? We talked about this in the other video. Was the maintenance being kept up the way it properly should have? It's just like anything, man. You go to a theme park, you don't think about it, but you hope. It's like kind of understood without saying that everything is checked, it's up to code, it's up to date, it's been inspected. You putting your life out on the line, getting on this stuff. You don't know, but you assume. He's implying, and it sounds like to me that this was like, what's the best way to put it? I don't want to say zip lining, but what can you go on other than a theme park that you trust, or you go on a cruise ship and you go on excursions, right? You tend to stick to the excursions that the cruise ship have, right? Even though where the boat docks at, they also have on the island excursions as well. Theirs may be a little bit cheaper, but which one are you gonna trust? Kind of gonna go with the one that you know has been vetted out by the cruise ship you've been on, right? And that's what happens a lot of times, man. Things pop up. Okay, we've made and designed this submersible, and it's been working. Here comes this other company, says we could do it for cheaper. Not saying that's what they did, but this is what happens a lot of time. We could do it for cheaper, but you don't know if they have proper inspections. You don't know if they've been up to code. You don't know if they've cut corners. You don't know if they've greased palms. You don't know the CEO, is he shiesty or anything like that? This is the type of stuff you don't even know. And your life is at stake.
Use certification from, let's say, ABS, the American Bureau of Shipping. And this particular outfit didn't do that. I had deep concerns about the technology that they were using, composite fiber wound filament hull, which I don't believe has any place in deep submergence. And I know a thing or two about, the engineering that goes into subs. I designed and built my own sub and went, at one point 10 years ago, went 3 times deeper than Titanic.
So they not even, oh my God. I gotta hear that again.
Any place in deep concerns about the technology that they were using, composite fiber wound filament hull, which I don't believe has any place in deep submergence. And I know
he's saying the technology being used had no place being used. No way should this have ever been used. This is his words. Oh, bro, it's going to be more that comes out. It's going to be so much more. This is going to be a slow drip. Slow drip of information of what they choose to give us. So it's going to be our job to kind of sift through the BS to get to the right information. But he just said the technology had no business being used. Now, I think a lot of us saw that controller and we automatically looked from a novice standpoint and said, you show me a controller, I'm probably going to say, y'all have fun with that one. That's a controller. But he's gone as far as to even say the technology being used had no place being used. Wow.
Wound filament hull, which I don't believe has any place in deep submergence. And I know a thing or two about the engineering that goes into subs. I designed and built my own sub and went, at one point 10 years ago, went 3 times deeper than Titanic at the Challenger Deep. So, it's all just engineering, and these are understood and known problems. The last thing somebody should be thinking about when they get into a sub to pay to go deep as a tourist or as a like a lay explorer, they shouldn't have to worry about the sub that they're in. This is just engineering, and it's the 21st century. If you think about when we first started diving deep back in the 60s, the time between then and now is greater than the time between Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright at Kitty Hawk and the flight of the first 747. That's the amount of time that we've had to improve our understanding of materials science and safety protocols and so on. There is no excuse for what happened here, and I find it appalling and tragic.
Just lastly, for both of you, I know you both knew Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate. Bob, you've known him for 30 or so years. So if you both could just talk to me a little bit about who he was, what his dream was, and what needs to happen now that this has happened.
Well, he was a dreamer. I met him. He was very young when I first met him, and he told me about his dream to develop a technology to dive on the Titanic. But that was about it. I wasn't that involved at all. Jim really understands the engineering science on that particular submarine, and like.
What does that sound like to y'all? And I could be reading too much into that, but what did that response sound like to y'all? I've met him, but I ain't gonna hitch my wagon to him like that. I'm not gonna sit here and big him up like that, because I feel as though something may be coming out about in his integrity, his practices, different things like that. So I don't want to kind of be so doesn't it feel like he just drew a clear line in the sand a little bit without doing it? He did it a respectful way, mind you. Very, very respectful way he just did that. But anybody who's able to read between the lines could kind of tell that he said a little bit and then he's kind of pushing it off away from him to be like, but I don't want that stench on me though. I knew him. He was a dreamer. That's all I know about him. Let's draw that line in the sand. Let's not even, you know what I mean? Listen to him.
I met him when he was very young when I first met him, and he told me about his dream to develop a technology to dive on the Titanic. But that was about it. I wasn't that involved at all. Jim really understands the engineering science on that particular submarine, and like Jim said, every time I dove in, I've dove in 9 different deep submersibles, and I've never worried about the integrity of the hull.
Yeah, you should be worried. If you're going to Titanic, you should be worried about entanglement or some other problem. You shouldn't be worried about the basic platform that you're diving in.
Basic.
Look, I never knew Stockton well, and I had no association whatsoever with OceanGate.
Are we not seeing the common theme here? Even the body language is saying, no, don't associate my name with that. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Words they're using as well. Do you pick up on words? Basic. Basic has been tossed around a lot. This is just basic stuff.
I knew Stockton well, and I had no association whatsoever with OceanGate, but I was aware of the nature of their design, and I had been very critical of that type of design. There was a prior design that was being built. It was a competing design to ours to get to Challenger Deep back a decade ago, and I was very vocal even to the people involved in that, saying somebody's going to get killed in a wound filament composite hull. It's just a really, really bad idea. And we don't know, we're speculating right now that was the cause of the implosion. It might have been the dome port, for all we know, which I've also heard was not certified to the depth that it was being dived to. But we don't know right now. But I feel pretty sure that it was that composite hull. But in any case, they never went through any certification process. So that, to me, is misrepresenting themselves to their paying clients. And I guess one of the lessons is caveat emptor. Really look carefully. If you're going to get into a sub, look carefully at the company that designed the sub, look at its certification and all those things. I would also strongly recommend that anybody that's going to take tours down to a deep site have an ROV on board that can reach the same depth, so that they can assist if there's a problem, especially entanglement, which is really the greater danger for any.
What's an ROV? You can't just be saying things and I don't know what it is. I'm gonna have to look it up. And if y'all are gonna take any of these trips later on in life, you need to figure out and know what a ROV is. Maybe y'all already do. Put it in the comment section for me though.
Especially entanglement, which is really the greater danger for any deep submersible that's operating by itself.
James Cameron, Bob Ballard, thank you both so much. I know this is a difficult day, but you both have insight and have seen things with your own eyes that very few people in this world have. So thank you both for the conversation.
I respect them too, because they could have easily came on here and not said any of those things. They could have kept all that to themselves. They could have continued to have phone conversation and dialogue amongst themselves, and this information never have gotten out. These are two experienced divers down that deep. One guy also went as far as to say he's designed one of his own. So very, very knowledgeable. And to just hear them talk, as in to say this should never have happened. This is basic stuff. Things weren't even certified is what they're saying. This makes things interesting, man. Again, very, very tragic situation. I'm pretty sure more is to come. I think this is just the beginning, man. And this is so sad, bro. Because I'm pretty sure the families don't want to hear this type of stuff, man. To know this could have been avoided. All of this stuff is alleged, though. All of this stuff is alleged. So listen, man, y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this video. Extremely, extremely, like, interesting information. Let's just say that. It's your boy L, man. Y'all stick around and stay tuned. Till next one, I'm gone. Peace.